government. This was published by the Political Action Committee, Political Research, rather, Associates in Cambridge, Mass. This is a very scary report.
I'm sure it is.
That's why I asked, where is the beef?
Wait a second.
Where is the beef?
Rabbi, zip it for just a second. Old Nazis, the new right, and the Reagan administration, these are people who are Nazis in the Reagan government, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you why they're there.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Let me tell you why
Let me ask you a question, all right?
Yes.
Did we publish a book like this during the Roosevelt administration, during the Truman administration, during the Johnson administration? Did we?
No.
How come? There were no Nazis there?
No, not in the same way.
Werner von Braun wasn't a Nazi, sir?
Werner von Braun is a Nazi.
Right, and we bought him here to
get
it.
That is correct.
Right.
You're absolutely
So there's
right.
a lot of that type of.
Let me tell you why they're in the government.
Why?
Because we have a president who would not know the difference if they walked into the Oval Office between Groucho Marx and Karl Marx. He's an anti-communist. Ronald Reagan, during World War II, was wearing a uniform as part of the War Department. He was making films teaching GIs how to avoid syphilis and gonorrhea.
You do, all right?
He has never been an anti-fascist.
Well,
these people were brought into the government because they are terrific as Nazis, anti-communists, and have been able to pursue the Cold War policy.
What about a Jew named Jesse Jackson, who's in the Democratic Party? What have you done against him?
Throw in the black stuff, create another racist backlash.
No, I fight all anti-Semites.
Well, this is you guys now.
White or black.
Wait a second, you guys.
About Jesse Jackson.
This you guys saying we got
1962.
Hey, guys, settle it down. You go first, then shut up.
Before you were born, I was arrested in Albany, Georgia with Martin Luther King Jr. Jesse Jackson was a young kid at the time. He was in disarray. He was in disfavor at that time. He's in disfavor at this time. But let me make one statement about Jesse Jackson and his community. 25 years ago in South Carolina, in the United States of America, Jesse Jackson couldn't vote, let alone run for president. And I think we have to keep that in mind.
Are we going
but that doesn't justify
let me tell you something. Let me tell you, 100 years ago, an Irishman couldn't vote. 90 years ago, a woman couldn't vote. You keep going back.
Some of them couldn't read either.
And some can't read now because this liberal government. I'll tell you what. Next, we'll cross-examine the man some call a radical and others call a damn fascist. Stay with us.
Jersey, call 201-785-9071.
Let us add, we've already introduced you to Mordecai Levy of the Jewish Defense Organization, Rabbi Goldman, who you've met at the Center for Creative Jewish Living. Now let me introduce a gentleman who is one of the survivors in the United States from the Holocaust. And we were just talking about all the Christian survivors of the Holocaust, too, all right? This is John Rance. John, welcome to you. Mordecai, I want to start with you, pal. Again, first, let's find out, before we go any further, I think the audience would like to know, and I'd like to know, what is the Jewish Defense Organization? The rabbi says, where's the beef?
Well,
don't go into all the pictures. We can't. You didn't still store them. We can't show them. It doesn't mean anything. Got a bunch of guys in uniforms. Wahoo! What is it?
The Jewish Defense Organization basically believes that we teach Jews firearms. We have a regular class around the country. We teach them to use guns because I feel it's better to know how and not have to.
Well, at least you're in a country where they haven't been collected yet. You know, like they were in Germany.
I'm very strong that everyone, Jewish and
teach them how to use knives, you know, switchblades.
I think that people have a right to have a firearm and know how to use it, whether they're Jewish or not. People have the right to defend themselves.
Okay, then what is your credo?
Our credo is, our slogan is to defend ourselves by any means necessary. And that basically means, obviously, there are times when peaceful means can work. Demonstrations, rallies. And there are other times that not such peaceful means.
Okay, I threw a firebomb at an empty Jewish synagogue. Listen to me. You're around. You see that I threw it. I run like a son of a gun, all right? You catch me. What do you do with me when you catch me?
First of all...
What do you do with me?
What we would do with you is put a gun to that person's head who did that, threw that bomb. If they try to fight us, they would be shot in self-defense.
What if they have no gun or anything with them?
If they... Then would call the police at that point. Now,
After guys lying in the pool
listen to
bar.
what I said was, if, listen well, if they put up a fight, which has happened, then I said we would be prepared if it came to a life-threatening situation. If he was armed, obviously.
So what you're saying is you do not espouse violence. You espouse defense.
Defense, in other words, and listen up, if someone, like the kids in Brooklyn whose father and the kid ripped off the father's gun, to go shoot up a synagogue in Long Island in Westbury, and we caught him, that piece of trash would be found, if he attacked the synagogue with weapons, as dead as any corpse in the cemetery, like Malcolm X said. You mess with me, you mess with my people, you're messing with death itself. In other words, if you try to kill us...
Oh, man, is the talk is so... Okay, I got... Mordecai, honest to God.
If
honest
it's
to God.
self-defense, not if it's not self-defense.
John, let me come to you for just a second. I'm sorry. I hope there's...
firebomb.
What if it were a Jew or firebomb? Then they deserve the same treatment, right?
Good question.
Would you shoot another Jew?
Anyone, whether they're Jewish or not, in this country has the right of self-defense. Now, I believe in the NRA, the National Rifle Association.
All right, I'll do another show on that.
I believe in the right to bear... I believe
if the person were a Jew, would you shoot him?
Anybody...
If the guy is a Jew, would you shoot him?
Doesn't matter what he is.
Would you shoot him if he were a Jew?
Of course I would.
Answer the question.
Of course I would. Because...
Good for him.
You're a liar.
That's consistency,
a
Rabbi.
liar.
Rabbi, at least that's consistency, right? Would you shoot the 12-year...
He's a liar. That's inconsistent with everything he said publicly.
Hold on a second.
He will never do violence against another Jew.
Hold on a second.
Real distinctions
Rabbi, hold on a second. I don't believe in ever using violence when peaceful means work. If you can grab the guy and he's unarmed, then you turn him into the police.
Why haven't you shot Mayor Kahana?
Hold on a second.
Whom you admit is a racist and a fascist.
I don't...
Why haven't you shot Mayor Kahana?
If he put a gun to my head, I certainly would.
If my wife put a gun to my head, I'd kill her. You know, what's the big deal?
There's nothing wrong with defending one's life and one's people and one's rights, Jewish or non-Jewish. That's what I'm saying.
That's why you attacked the people in front of the Geraldo studios.
Hold on a second.
You attacked them.
Yes, I did. You know why?
Was it a matter of self-defense?
I'll answer that.
They pulled up in a car. They had the free right
Those
to
Nazis,
address themselves. Even you don't like what they say, and I don't like what they say. You attacked them.
That
is not an act of self-defense.
Good for you. Good for you.
Had Geraldo not put those Nazis on, then there would have never been a fight in the first place.
Wait a second. I've had those... Wait a second. I'm not going to do the Geraldo show, but I've had those same Nazis and Roy Innes on this show 3 times. There's never been any violence.
You controlled the
never
situation
been any violence.
here. They didn't.
But couldn't have you have controlled it?
Let me answer that.
When Mordecai Levy was there was the only time there was any violence.
Let me answer that. When we showed up, you're correct. There was violence, and I'll say why. Because if German Jews 40 years ago would have beaten the stormtroopers in the streets, there wouldn't have been ovens and gas chambers. There'd be 6 million Jews alive today.
John, you're a survivor. John, you're a survivor, all right, of the Nazi death camps.
Right.
You've demonstrated against Nazis your entire life. Do you think Mordecai Levy is doing a service for the Jewish community?
I do not think that his road is a good road. I think that he has good intentions. He believes what he is doing is good. Unfortunately, his methods, his approach is not the right one.
What's the right one?
The issue is not to fight or beat up a Nazi or somebody who does something against the law. The issue is to create a climate in this country or in any country where human beings can live together in harmony, in decency.
I don't know who it was. Someone once said, democracy is a dream, security is a myth. And I think what you have just given us is a dream. I don't think we ever get to, as long as you have as many people of varying degrees of mentality.
Real vigilance in the Jewish community.
This is more than a dream. He was a survivor of the Holocaust and in several concentration camps. He has more right to state his views.
He has no more right than you do,
He has more right to state his views.
No more right than you do.
An Irish Catholic and an American-born rabbi.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't. No more rights at all.
He suffered as a victim at the hands of the Nazis.
The beauty is, sir, he has just as many rights. The beauty is, Rabbi, he has just as many rights. No more rights. Because Had he been in this country in 1940, he wouldn't have been in the concentration camp in the first place. That's what I say. Right? Now, you say...
If he were Japanese after 1941, December 7th, and American Japanese, he'd be in a concentration camp in America.
Go ahead, let me hear you.
Now, real security...
You give your 20 grand, I won't. All right?
Didn't you see the 6 o'clock news? The Japanese have just bought the Statue of Liberty.
Please.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Real security for any minority can only be then if there is a climate of decent human relations between people.
Security, I'm sorry, John. Wait a second, he's right, all right? Security for any minority is for enough of us minorities to gather together as a unit and become a majority.
That is correct.
I have no problem with that.
The Jews are only 2% of this country. Under no circumstances can they by themselves ensure their safety, like any other minority cannot ensure their safety. Our safety lies in a good, decent society, in human relations, in the struggle for human rights and social justice among all human beings.
Let me ask the rabbi. Rabbi, would you allow a guy like Mordecai Levy and his group Sanctuary in your synagogue? Do you think he's on the right track in any way, shape, or form?
I think he's a nice kid. I don't think that he has particularly deep intellectual or moral insight into the human problems. I am the son of Russian Jewish immigrants. I grew up in Lewiston, Maine. At the age of 5, I was beaten up regularly for being a Christ killer by French Canadian Catholics. I tried to convince them at the age of 5, how could a 5-year-old kid like me kill your God? That was taught by the church for 20 centuries, and it wasn't Hitler only who created the ovens. It was the church that created a climate for 20 centuries which said in Europe, with impunity, it is all right to kill Jews because they killed our God.
And for that reason,
sir. Thank God those days are over.
Thank God they're over, sir. Thank God they're over, sir. And also, I'm sure you'll recognize that over 1 million Catholics died in those ovens, too. All right?
Many of them, many of them defying the Pope.
Many of them defying
the Pope.
Not the Pope. The Pope did not come out with those words, sir, all right? The Pope also gave sanctuary, if we're going back to Pius, all right? Also gave sanctuary, but waited too long, all right? He waited too long. So there have been a lot of mistakes made, pal. But you seem to want to live in the past.
That's 20 centuries. That's not a mistake. A mistake is something...
Do you want me to go into some of the mistakes that the Jews are making? The new Holocaust they're committing on the West Bank?
The Israelis?
Israelis?
Don't say Jews, say Israelis. Say Israelis.
What is an Israeli, sir? What is an Israeli?
The Israeli government is a sovereign government which
supported entirely by American taxpayers at the tune of $3 billion, and we're not taking care of our own people here. We'll be back in just a second. Come on. All right. I want to come back to the rabbi first because during commercial break, the rabbi and I were discussing something. The rabbi said, Rabbi, so I don't paraphrase, would you explain what you were talking about the two different types?
I think there's an overview here, and that is basically that anti-Semitism in America, particularly in America, is an industry. It is big business. And it's on the rise, too. It is big business. We need anti-Semites for major Jewish organizations to survive and thrive. Without anti-Semitism, guys like Mordecai Levy would be out of business. But I think we have to understand that there are two kinds of Jews, and it has nothing to do with the model of Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, or what I am, unorthodox. It has to do with the fact that there are two mentalities. One is the incipient pogrom mentality. The Goyim out there are staying up late at night.
Goyim meaning Christian.
They are lighting...
Goyim meaning Christian.
Non-Jews.
Yeah. Non-Jews.
Non-Jews are staying up late at night trying to figure out what the hell to do with the Jews who are creating 90% of the culture that all of us enjoy in America.
How much?
And without them...
90%?
And without them... And without the anti-Semites...
Let the man speak. Oftentimes he weaves his own web and hangs himself.
Many Jews identify their Judaism based on their adversaries. There is a whole other group who believe that Judaism is based on a culture of 5,000 years of justice with compassion, with a worldview of ethics and morality that deserves to survive because it has contributed to the betterment of humanity.
Germany,
You don't
and they
understand
ended up
that,
in the
so keep
camps.
quiet. You
That's
haven't
what
learned
I'm
that yet.
saying. What
Just
happened
as there
to
are
them?
two kinds of Christians. One kind of Christian believes in the teachings of Jesus. A simple man, compassionate, talks about love, anti-institutional, anti-establishment, despised the temple in Jerusalem. The last thing that Jesus would have supported was a hierarchy in a Roman Catholic Church with a pope. And then there are other Christians who believe not that it's a God of love, but it's a God based on suffering, a dead man on a cross, and a symbol of death. And that is the corollary among Orthodox Christianity to someone like Mordecai Levy, who sees suffering, tyranny, and anti-Semitism.
Let me introduce. Wait a second, zip it, damn it. I want to go here to Jerry Preiser. Jerry, let me come to you. First, let me say, what do you think? What do you think of Brucey Baby here?
Well, I want to apologize
I'm
to
sorry,
all
Rabbi.
my Goyim friends for that derogatory term, but pressing on from there, Rabbi, very interesting that you talk about two types of Jews. In Nazi Germany, there were two types of Jews. There was the Judenrat, who led his fellow Jews into the ovens. People, pacifists, very much like yourself, who went along with whatever went along.
That.
And then,
I resent you
then there were the
associating
Jews in the
Judenrat with
Warsaw
myself.
ghetto who used Saturday night specials, which you despise.
I didn't
and
say
would
I
keep out of the
despise it.
hands of
I'm a
legitimate
U.S.
people.
Army officer.
There are
trained
two
in the
types
use
of Jews,
arms.
Rabbi, and
I
with all due
believe in
respect,
defending myself,
you,
even against
with all,
people who
I listened to
misrepresent
you
my
with the
views like
history
this.
lesson.
Jerry,
now
go
you
ahead.
zip it and you listen to me. I had enough of the history lesson.
Go ahead. Let
I
Jerry
listen,
talk.
now you can listen to me for just a few
But
seconds.
say something.
I'm
Where's
about
the
to.
beef?
I'm about to. Just
Where's
zip it
the
out.
beef?
Just zip it out.
Let him talk.
Your type of Jew is the pacifist. You're the guy, with all due respect, Rabbi,
I'm not a pacifist.
okay, who
I'm not a
supported,
pacifist.
Let him
who
finish.
supported
Then come back.
the Black Panthers in the 60s with their use of guns. You're the guy that got fired from Columbia
That's a lie.
University for
That's a
leading the
lie.
leftist causes, okay?
That's a lie.
You're no big deal, Rabbi.
That's a lie.
So take your history
That's a lie.
lesson and shove it.
That's a lie. That's a
Rabbi,
lie.
respond. Rabbi, just go ahead, sir. Let the rabbi respond.
That's a lie.
Another history lesson, Rabbi.
It's a lie.
A lie.
I won't dignify it with an answer.
I appreciate that.
You weren't in
Smart.
Columbia when Mark Rudd and those students seized buildings in the name of protesting the war?
Don't be a schmuck. I was chaplain at Columbia University. And at the time that there was a revolution, and I would be honored to believe that 3,000 students would listen to Bruce Goldman and take over buildings.
You'd
What
like to
kind
think
of
that.
power do you
No,
attribute
Rabbi.
to me?
You let me wrap
What
up.
kind of an
One second.
acidity
I'm gonna answer
analysis
that.
of the
I
event?
said you
were barely born.
Rabbi,
Your bridge
Rabbi,
star hadn't even
you
healed.
participated with them in that. You marched in the 60s, fine. I'm all for marching. I'm not against that.
For human rights.
For human rights.
All human
But now,
rights.
all human rights.
Human dignity.
But listen to
Let
my
him
question,
finish. Come
please.
on. Dignity.
Rabbi,
The
dignity.
man won't listen.
A Nazi with a swastika
You
named
love that
Covington.
stuff, don't
Hold
you?
on, Rabbi.
You love it.
You don't want to hear an answer.
That's
Got
not an answer.
43% of the vote in North Carolina. In this country, Harold Covington, Metzger, who was on this show, 80,000 votes as a Ku Klux Klan leader running for Congress. He won the primary. I say to you, Hitler
Right.
started
And Heil
with 6
Kahana won in
members.
Israel.
I'm not a supporter. of
Heil
it.
Kahana, who was
Rabbi,
just kicked out by the Israeli
Rabbi,
Knesset for
what
being a
are you
racist
doing?
and a fascist.
Rabbi,
Heil Kahana,
He was
your
kicked out.
mentor.
He
Your
was
mentor.
kicked out. Zip it
I
a
don't
minute.
support him.
Zip it a minute, both of you now. All
Say
right?
it again.
I
Let's
bet
hear
Kahana.
it. Let's
no.
hear it. You don't support him.
No.
Tell us why.
I like him.
Tell us why.
I like the guy, all
I
right?
don't support him for one
I
reason.
like the guy because he has the cojones to say what he believes in. I don't believe in what he believes in.
All right, let me
but
answer
I'd
that.
rather know where my enemy's coming from than where my friends are going, pal. We'll be back in just a sec. All right. Let me come back to you just a second. John Reyes. John Rance, let's get into guns for just 1 second, because he is not anti-gun, all right? He was a military man. I'm saying the rabbi was not anti-gun. You're a military man. I'm sure you believe in the right to bear arms, all right, as a military man. Let me ask you, if the Jews had had guns in Nazi Germany, would they have survived?
If they had guns, they would have done what a human being has a right to do to defend himself. Whether they would survive, I would say no. The entire Jewish population was only 1/2 of 1%. They could never resist
Where
the
was the
army in Germany.
In Germany, the entire Jewish population was only 1/2
of 1%.
Come on, John, where you been?
That's exactly the figure.
1/2 of 1%.
All right.
The total population in America now, and this is the largest Jewish community
Now,
in
at
the world,
that time,
is less
Germany
than
had a total
1.8%.
population
60 million.
of 60 million.
there were
You
close
tell me
to
1/2 of
500,000
1%, which means there were only 500,000 Jews.
Right, a little bit
And in
more.
Germany, they
3/4%.
killed, how many of them from Germany got killed?
3/4% was the Jewish population, exactly. Now, they could never.
Where the hell did the
withstand
7 million come from? then?
North.
The whole Europe.
There was all Europe, Poland,
Warsaw,
Russia,
Poland.
Romania, Hungary. If they,
There were
under
more than that if you
under
take it
no
in Russia.
circumstances could they survive. The only survival for the Jews in Germany or Europe would have been if there would be good, decent human relations built upon human justice, human rights. That is
Curtis,
the ultimate safety
I'm
and
listening to the same old
Now,
violin play with broken strings I've heard for years.
Certainly, every
John
human
Zip
being
it, Curtis Sliwa.
has a right.
John Curtis. If anyone in America, all right, there's two people in America who stand out of my mind as great vigilantes. One is Anthony Imperiali, and the leading one, of course, is Curtis Sliwa, the head of the Guardian Angels. What do you think of Mordecai and his group?
You speak of resistance, and Jerry mentioned it, Jews fighting back with weapons. The rabbi alluded to it. Mordecai mentioned it. But Mordecai, you're more. You provoke. We saw in that film, you sought out these people, trashed them down, beat them down like dogs.
Absolutely.
You were provoking a situation. You were as guilty as the KKK, Farrakhan's Muslims, provokers of hate. We've gone beyond that. This is the difference, Mort. You see next to me an Arab American. He supports the Intifada. He disagrees with Jewish Americans who are part of the Guardian Angels. They debate. But when it comes to protecting synagogues or mosques or people in need, they put aside their differences, no weapons, no violence, and protect everybody equally. That's the answer.
This is what John's calling for. He's got a good point. He's got a great point.
I respect what you've done, but I say this. I respect one thing about the black community in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh recently. The
Just one
Klan
thing?
and the skinheads were going to march. The black community 3 weeks ago said if the Ku Klux Klan comes to our neighborhood, they'll march in and they won't march out. Now, I say to you, you think in the Bronx or in Manhattan, in Harlem, the black community would let the KKK come in? No way. Not even a peaceful Ku Klux Klan rally. No group would let themselves get walked on. Those skinheads that we fought who were carrying signs gassed the Jews. It was in the videotape. Yeah, wait,
Not
yes,
weapons.
that's correct.
Not weapons.
Let me tell you something. I had
Signs
a
which were
friend-
used very effectively by Mr. Goebbels for years.
Now,
all right?
I had a friend named Alan Berg. With all respect to the rabbi and you, I say this. Had Jews in Germany, when Hitler was using words and marching, and had not yet put people in ovens, and he had not yet risen to power, had Jews killed Hitler, a lot more Jews would be alive today. So, I don't believe in violence unnecessarily, but against the Nazis or the Ku Klux Klan,
Mordecai,
absolutely.
Where does it end? Here's an American Arab right
shake
here.
his hand.
I'll shake his hand. But you'll disagree with him so vigorously,
It would
so
never go-
violently,
it wouldn't turn
that
to
it would
violence.
keep you from working together. We have advanced. We know what
would work with him.
indiscretions we had in history. I'm a Roman Catholic. I know there were Catholics who condemned Jews as money changers. We are guilty of that along with so many in humanity. But to undo the wrong doesn't mean to utilize the same tactics. I respect this man who was in the concentration camp because he should be the first to raise up his hand. Yet, he seeks dignity, pride, and a future in which we all work together. Arab, Jew, Christian.
Now, let me tell you something. Let me just tell you something. That was a beautiful message you just gave. That was a beautiful handshake you guys just made. Why the hell don't you have enough guts to run against Ed Koch for mayor in New York City, huh? Jeez, I'm telling you.
Mort, my wife does need a house. She's getting tired of our apartment. I may take you up on that.
Let me, go ahead.
I'd like to ask him one question.
Quickie now.
You would not allow, in your ranks, white racist Ku Klux Klan. I know you have good kids in the group. And you'd never allow neo-Nazis in because you know they're bad people. You wouldn't allow, let's say, white supremacists said, hey, we want to keep our neighborhood safe. You'd say no to them because you want people that'll protect the community, and that's fine. So understand where we're coming from. We're not fighting him. We're fighting the Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, and the Farrakhan's, and those who say to me, we're going to put you in the ovens a second time.
But
I can't...
all those people, you mentioned Farrakhan, they've cleaned up a drug-plagued area in Washington, D.C. You should support them in that effort and disagree with them and everything else. Not go to war against these people and create even more violence, because where does it end? Where does it end, Mordecai?
It's not what you say, Mordecai. It's what you do that we disagree with, and the way you do it. We all got to live in the world together, Mordecai, and it's getting smaller every day, and you got to be able to tolerate other points of view and be able to reconcile them with your own.
I'm willing to hear what you have to say, and what he has to say, and what he has to say, but one thing, I don't think anyone in this room would be so happy if there was, and there have been, white supremacists in here saying we're going to have a race war against minority groups. And those people were in here. Yeah, let me tell you something.
They were in here, and that audience trashed them. And that's what the American public at home does. They trash them.
And Metzger got 80,000 votes in California.
You got a lot of sick people in any
Why
country.
did he get those votes? I'll tell you why. Because there's economic problems, there's racial tension, and Metzger and his hate groups, the Ku Klux Klan, feeds off that.
I heard from the audience a word. How about ignorance? Let's our audience speak next, all right? Come on.
Some of the guests of the Morton Downey Jr. show stay at the Meadowlands Hilton Hotel.
All right, Rabbi, on the Larry King show not too long ago with one of those creephead skinheads, you made an offer. Wait a second. Zip it. I want the rabbi to make the same offer.
Let me just preface it. I'm an authority.
Shut up, producers over there. Let's do the show over here.
In the area of intercultural relationships. That means counseling and therapy with people from different racial, ethnic, religious groups in the performance of intercultural marriages and weddings.
Oh, come on.
I deal every single day with problems of racism from Jews and from non-Jews in my living room and study. I made a deal with Michael Palish. I offered him this, and I'm prepared to offer this to you, Levy. I had breakfast with him the day after the Larry King show, and I said to him, you are a nice-looking kid, you're talented, I think you're redeemable. I'll make a deal with you. Have you ever heard of Alcoholics Anonymous? He said, yes. You ever heard of Gamblers Anonymous? He said, yes. I said, I will get you professional help in New Orleans if you will found an organization with me and Mordecai Levy called Racists Anonymous.
I'm not a racist.
Yes, you are.
Rabbi, I fought racism.
Yes,
I fought the Ku Klux Klan, did you? With guns in my hand. In Greensboro, did you? I fought them in Fontana when they killed a black telephone repairman.
With guns in your hand.
Go to the front of the line. Go to the front of the line.
Guns in your hand.
You're telling me Daddy's good.
Go ahead, front of the line. Go ahead, David.
You guys are all fighting for the same thing, right? Why don't you two unite with each other?
I'm all for unity, yes.
Wouldn't it be
I would bring, Rabbi, I invite you to come to my next anti-Klan rally in Queens when the Klan opens up a headquarters. You come with us.
How would you expect people to understand the Jews and love them if you hate each other?
You know what? I don't hate him, no. I respect...
No, that's a misconception.
We disagree.
I love this guy.
Personally, I get along with him.
I know that he behaves like a
Welcome. You didn't know you'd come to the dating game, did you?
That's a myth. That is a myth.
The rabbi and me are not enemies because he is a fellow Jew, part of my community, who I disagree with, but
You disagree with me
how
on
about,
everything.
how about that young Arab man? Are you friends with
My
him?
position
Because he is a
with
fellow
this-
human. How about fellow human?
Of course.
All right?
But listen,
I'm
listen
so
what
tired of
saying.
this Jews,
You're not
black,
being a good
Irish.
Jew,
It's
because being a
crap.
good
There is
Jew
such a
is
thing as
being
a
part of
family.
Let me hear
the
this, young
world.
man.
Mordecai, you're not being a good Jew, because being a good Jew means also being tolerant of other people's views.
I support
And also-
this Arab American's position for a Palestinian state in the Middle East.
I'm sure
and
you
have
do,
for
Rabbi.
25 years. You know why?
I don't.
You know
Mordecai.
why?
Because you don't own any property on the West Bank, that's why.
Yeah, but the
the
JDL
Japanese
does. The JDL's buying
I'll
out
tell
all
you
the
why.
Arabs on the West
Because
Bank.
I
to try
learned
to
a
get rid
long
of them.
time ago
Can you give me a
that
chance?
an Arab mother, a black mother, and an Israeli mother cry just as long and hard for the
Absolutely.
dead child as does each other.
Go ahead, ma'am. Let me hear this lady here. Let me hear this lady. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm a Holocaust survivor, and I respectfully disagree with your statement that you made about the new Holocaust in the West Bank. I'm for a peaceful solution with the PLO, especially now after they recognize Israel. But you cannot make such a statement that it's not true, because this is not a new Holocaust in the West Bank.
Anytime people are needlessly killed, ma'am, by Arabs, by Jews, by Germans, by Irish, it's a Holocaust to the member of the family who loses the person.
What about the rioters
All right?
in Newark?
That is
One person means a Holocaust.
feelings, but
Were
not
they
Holocaust.
victims of a Holocaust?
The what?
I know when
When we
Anthony
talk about
Imperiali,
Holocaust,
Anthony Imperiali called for the police to crush the riots in this area in 1967. All your God Bless America types got up rightfully saying, we want law and order, and they were right. And you better believe that tanks rolled down the streets in Newark because a certain community said, we don't want our homes burned. Now, was that a Holocaust that 30... What community? The Italian-American community?
Let me hear the audience, all right? Go ahead. Let me hear the audience. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say I have a lot of intelligent men here all trying to speak together. And what you have to realize is until you get together and unite, you can't have people being beaten in the street or this world's going nowhere.
Go ahead.
Why don't we all start working towards, the Holocaust happened 45 years ago. I'm not saying to forget about it, but why don't we get past it? Why don't we start working towards living together as a group?
You know why? I'll answer
It
that.
happened 45 years ago. If we start working together to be one group of people, instead of people like you bringing up these groups that are killing other people, you're promoting violence, okay? You are out there every day bashing other people who are anti-Jews, okay? You're saying that they're anti-Jews, but you're against anybody that is not a Jew.
Not true.
Let me hear from this young lady with the football injury. Come on, ma'am.
All right, Mr.
Mordecai Levy.
Mordecai. You say you want your rights. You say your rights are being stepped on. They're being stepped on by these anti-Jews and everything. And then all you're doing is turning around and doing it to them. Is there any way, is this your solution to the problem here?
I'll answer you. I know another community, excuse me, Italian section of Harlem. When there were riots breaking out, their community, and no one said it was terrible to do that, picked up weapons to defend themselves.
This is solution.
Hold it.
Now, Mordecai,
I'm
what
gonna
you're finding is more and more of us who are conservative aren't conservative because we want to go out and break people's heads. We want to find a solution. We want to find a peaceful solution. Then if I don't find a peaceful solution and someone comes through my window, then I'll blow their face off.
You want to know something? Why does the NRA have millions of new members this year, more than any other year before? Because lots of the liberals who didn't understand the idea of self-defense have woken up to it. I believe, unlike some people that are a little bit boorish, there's a right of self-defense. For our people, for your people, for anyone.
There's a difference between self-defense
I
and going
totally
out
agree with
and
self-defense.
shooting somebody just for the heck
Totally.
of it, just because they
Hold
blew
it.
up your...
Would it have been right for the Jews in Germany to kill Hitler before he rose to power? Would it have been morally right? Yes or no? It would have stopped the Holocaust. What?
German military command has made many attempts on Hitler's life to their credit.
I'm asking if it was moral.
Remembers?
I asked
You
if it
remember,
was...
Jerry?
Rabbi, you know...
And John Ransom.
You're not...
Rabbi.
Would it have been moral?
Mordecai, let me hear Jerry. Zip it a minute, let me hear Jerry.
Let me address this to the self-proclaimed expert on interpersonal relationship. Rabbi, the problem with pacifist Jews like yourself in this country
I'm not a pacifist.
is that...
Stop lying
Fine.
and state your case.
You're an
about
activist
yourself.
and you're pro-gun. The problem is, amongst the vast majority of Jews in the country, unfortunately, they react to the
Why
problem
don't you
afterwards.
tell people that you
let
have
me
a gun
tell you,
factory on the
let
west
me
side?
tell you a
Why
short
don't you tell people
story,
who you are?
Okay?
Why don't you tell them you
I'll
have a
get
gun
to it if
range
you let
and
me speak.
taking teenagers and showing them how to use firearms.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with showing teenagers how to use firearms? Let me hear this man. Let me hear this man.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a right way and a wrong thing to do things. Everybody's making very valid points and complaining about the past, but you have to deal with the present, and you have to deal with the future, okay? You punch me in the face, I'm going to come with a knife, you're going to come back with a gun, and where is it going to stop? You're doing things the wrong way.
I'd like to ask you a question. I'd like to ask you a question about your organization. What is the percentage of non-Jews in your organization?
Well, we have people in the group who believe in our cause, who are not Jewish, who support, of course, it's a Jewish organization. The majority of members are Jewish.
Tell them the truth.
In the West Coast, sir.
The one-man operation.
Excuse me. Rabbi, an organization...
How many members in the JDO?
We have
How many members in the JDO?
We have in the United States 3,000 members. Rabbi, we have a training camp. Don't lie, Rabbi. You're just as bad as them. Pictures that upset you of our training camp.
Mordecai, do you ever serve meals to people who need a hot meal? Do you ever go in and sit down with AIDS victims and comfort them? Do you ever help
Did
little
you
old
ever
ladies
sit up till
across
4
the
o'clock
street?
in the morning
Do you form
guarding
coalitions with
synagogues
blacks
that were
in New
being
York?
desecrated?
Do you sit down with
Rabbi,
Arab
did you?
Americans and talk about how you can
See,
resolve
Rabbi,
problems?
you
Do
go
you?
and go the easy route. I go a little more difficult. I agree. It's more difficult to sit up till 4 in the morning guarding
Give me the
synagogues.
camera here, will you? Because I'm tired of listening to this garbage. We'll be back in a second. All right, let's head back to the audience right now, sir.
I want to say that all these years of violence and stuff really seems to be getting nowhere at all. And unless all these races get together and do something about it, this world is never going to be a better place.
You got it, pal. Let me hear this gentleman.
You know, I think the great late John Lennon said it best, give peace a chance.
Who was the piece? Yoko Ono? Go ahead.
You're just as bad as them. You promote violence, and I don't know where you get off saying, like, when you go...
Your big chance, and you blew it. Go ahead.
I just want to say, if you go on these patrols and all this, I want to know, how many guys did you kill, personally?
The fact is we have never...
No, not the fact. I want to know.
Answer that.
How many guys
We
you
have never
killed
killed
personally?
anyone.
You have never killed nobody. I want to know, what is it? What is a gun? If you have a gun, or if you don't got a gun, what does that make you?
I think it's better to have a gun and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Oh, so why
I want the gun. I want the gun.
All right?
Hey, let me tell you, man,
take somebody's
you're a real
karate,
fox.
Anything.
Go ahead.
I feel that you're antagonizing the whole situation, and yet you blame a lot on the Ku Klux Klan and the whites. Well, what better are you than they? I mean, you're doing the same
You know
thing.
what?
You're provoking
A mugger
violence.
hits you, and you hit him back. You're both using force, but there's a difference. He's a mugger, and you're not. There's a difference between violence of the aggressor and violence of the defender.
Yeah, but what gives you a right to shoot somebody?
No, the only time, I think where we're making the mistake here is I think the only time there's a right to shoot somebody is when your life is threatened by that person.
Yeah, but
otherwise, right? Now, if he goes out and provokes, then whoever the hell he provokes has the right to nail him, too.
Right,
all right? And if we keep doing that, we all get mad. So, gang, kick ass!
Government. This was published by the Political Action Committee political research associates in Cambridge, Mass. This is a very scary report.
I'm sure it is.
That's why I asked, where is the beef?
Wait a second.
Where is the beef?
Rabbi, zip it for just a second. Old Nazis, the new right, and the Reagan administration, these are people who are Nazis in the Reagan government, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you why they're there.
No, let me ask you a question.
Let me tell you why
Let me ask you a question, all right?
Yes.
Did we publish a book like this during the Roosevelt administration, during the Truman administration, during the Johnson administration? Did we?
No.
How come? There were no Nazis there?
No, not in the same way.
Werner von Braun wasn't a Nazi, sir?
Werner von Braun is a Nazi.
Right, and we bought him here to
That
get
is correct.
Right.
You're absolutely
So there's
right.
a lot of that type of...
Let me tell you why they're in the government.
Why?
Because we have a president who would not know the difference if they walked into the Oval Office between Groucho Marx and Karl Marx. He's an anti-communist. Ronald Reagan, during World War II, was wearing a uniform as part of the War Department. He was making films teaching GIs how to avoid syphilis and gonorrhea.
You do, all right?
He has never been an anti-fascist.
Well,
these people were brought into the government because they are terrific as Nazis, anti-communists, and have been able to pursue the Cold War policies.
What about a Jew named Jesse Jackson, who's in the Democratic Party? What have you done against him?
Throw in the black stuff, create another racist backlash.
No, I fight all anti-Semites.
But this is you guys now.
Or black.
Wait a second, you guys. Jesse Jackson.
This you guys saying we got
1962.
Hey, guys, settle it down. You go first, then shut up.
Before you were born, I was arrested in Albany, Georgia with Martin Luther King, Jr. Jesse Jackson was a young kid at the time. He was in disarray. He was in disfavor at that time. He's in disfavor at this time. But let me make one statement about Jesse Jackson and his community. 25 years ago in South Carolina, in the United States of America, Jesse Jackson couldn't vote, let alone run for president. And I think we have to keep that in mind.
Are we going to
But that doesn't justify
let me tell you something. Let me tell you, 100 years ago, an Irishman couldn't vote. 90 years ago, a woman couldn't vote. You keep going back.
Some of them couldn't read either.
And some can't read now because this liberal government. I'll tell you what. Next, we'll cross-examine the man some call a radical and others call a damn fascist. Stay with us.
Jersey, call 201-785-9071.
Let us add, we've already introduced you to Mordecai Levy of the Jewish Defense Organization, Rabbi Goldman, who you've met at the Center for Creative Jewish Living. Now let me introduce a gentleman who is one of the survivors in the United States from the Holocaust. And we were just talking about all the Christian survivors of the Holocaust, too, all right? This is John Rance. John, welcome to you. Mordecai, I want to start with you, pal. Again, first, let's find out, before we go any further, I think the audience would like to know, and I'd like to know, what is the Jewish Defense Organization? The rabbi says, where's the beef?
Well,
don't go into all the pictures. We can't. You didn't still store them. We can't show them. It doesn't mean anything. Got a bunch of guys in uniforms. Wahoo! What is it?
The Jewish Defense Organization basically believes that we teach Jews firearms. We have a regular class around the country. We teach them to use guns because I feel it's better to know how and not have to.
Well, at least you're in a country where they haven't been collected yet. You know, like they were in Germany.
I'm very strong that everyone, Jewish and
teach them how to use knives, you know, switchblades.
I think that people have a right to have a firearm and know how to use it, whether they're Jewish or not. People have the right to defend themselves.
Okay, then what is your credo?
Our credo is, our slogan is to defend ourselves by any means necessary. And that basically means, obviously, there are times when peaceful means can work. Demonstrations, rallies. And there are other times that not such peaceful means.
Okay, I threw a firebomb at an empty Jewish synagogue. Listen to me. You're around. You see that I threw it. I run like a son of a gun, all right? You catch me. What do you do with me when you catch me?
First of all...
What do you do with me?
What we would do with you is put a gun to that person's head who did that, threw that bomb. If they try to fight us, they would be shot in self-defense.
What if they have no gun or anything with them?
If they... Then we he would call the police at that point. Now,
At the guy's lying in a pool.
Listen to what I said was, if, listen well, if they put up a fight, which has happened, then I said we would be prepared if it came to a life-threatening situation. If he was armed, obviously.
So what you're saying is you do not espouse violence. You espouse defense.
Defense, in other words, and listen up, if someone, like the kids in Brooklyn whose father and the kid ripped off the father's gun to go shoot up a synagogue in Long Island in Westbury, and we caught him, that piece of trash would be found if he attacked the synagogue with weapons as dead as any corpse in the cemetery, like Malcolm X said. You mess with me, you mess with my people, you're messing with death itself. In other words, if you try to kill us...
man, is the talk is so... Okay, I got... Mordecai, honest to God.
If
honest
it's
to God.
self-defense, not if it's not self-defense.
John, let me come to you for just a second. I'm sorry. I hope there's...
firebomb.
What if it were a Jew or firebomb? Then they deserve the same treatment, right?
Good question.
Would you shoot another Jew?
Anyone, whether they're Jewish or not, in this country has the right of self-defense. Now, I believe in the NRA, the National Rifle Association.
All right, I'll do another show on that.
I believe in the right to bear... I believe
if the person were a Jew, would you shoot him?
Anybody...
If the guy is a Jew, would you shoot him?
Doesn't matter what he is.
Would you shoot him if he were a Jew?
Of course I would.
Answer the question.
Of course I would. Because...
Good for him.
You're a liar.
That's consistency, Rabbi.
Liar.
Rabbi, at least that's consistency, right? Would you shoot the 12-year...
He's a liar. That's inconsistent with everything he said publicly.
Hold on a second.
He will never do violence against another Jew.
Hold on a second.
Real distinctions
Rabbi,
about
hold on a second. I don't believe in ever using violence when peaceful means work. If you can grab the guy and he's unarmed, then you turn him into the police.
Why haven't you shot Mayor Kahana?
Hold on a second.
Whom you admit is a
Hold on
racist and a fascist.
I don't...
Why haven't you shot Mayor Kahana?
If he put a gun to my head, I certainly would.
If my wife put a gun to my head, I'd kill her. You know, what's the big deal?
There's nothing wrong with defending one's life and one's people and one's rights, Jewish or non-Jewish. That's what I'm saying.
That's
you
why
have
you attack the people in front of the Herald
Rabbi,
Studios.
Hold on a second.
You attack them.